It's that time that I needed to come sooner than I thought. I really should have done it sooner. We're here now, and honestly, it needed to happen, and I'm ready for it. Boom, boom, boom. Hello, I'm Styleboy and welcome to World, and in today's video we are ranking Little Mix's albums. If you did not know, I am a huge Little Mix stan. Ever since they won an X Factor, I was like, yes. I have all of their CDs right here. Glorious, aren't they? I've always loved them. I've actually also met them, not like on a full-blown interview, God I wish, but I met them for like a book signing, and honestly my life changed forever. I love them to death, and because you guys also really like my confetti video, I thought it'd be the perfect time to rank all of their albums. I've also done this before, I think during the summer last year, which is crazy to say, where I ranked Taylor Swift's albums and I also ranked Ariana Grande's albums. So if you want to check them out, go and check those videos, they'll be somewhere. But I thought today, Little Mix, it's your turn with my ranking. Disclaimer, my opinion, I think you guys all know this, but it's all my opinion. They have never really made a bad album because I wouldn't have all their CDs here if they did make a bad album. And honestly, I love them to death, so this is not meant to be hate. Also, it's fun. Firstly, subscribe, duh. And secondly, comment down below your rankings. I want to hear what your thoughts are on each of the albums. I love discussions like this. They're so good. And without further ado, let us start with the ranking. At number 6, we have Glory Days. I feel like Glory Days is such a weird era, in my opinion. I mean, their first single, Shout Out to My Ex, chef's kiss. The best way to describe this album, I feel like it's like your 20s. Granted, I've only just started my 20s because I'm literally 21. I don't know why, it just reminds me of like your 20s or like at the end part of like your teens, like 18, 19, 20. It's very free. I feel like I love that free feeling, and there are so many iconic songs on this album. Like, come on. Like, we cannot forget about You Gotta Know. That song is my favorite. Actually, one of my favorite Little Mix songs of all time. Like, I stan it, I love it. Oh my god. Power, because Power is such a power move. Both versions, actually. I really liked both versions. With Stormzy and without Stormzy. I actually remember going to see Little Mix at the LM5 tour. Oh, I think Stormzy actually came up to perform and I was like, bitch. Oh my god, it was such a cool experience. Actually, them on tour is incredible. Like, if you have the opportunity to go. Like, that's the one thing I'd recommend because they are such incredible performers, like outstanding performers. Like, they just capture a stage so well and they know exactly what they're doing, and it's just, oh, Freak. Freak is iconic. This is the massive, like, fuck you song. And who doesn't love a massive F you song? I do, personally. I love those kind of songs. They make me feel powerful. Especially when you're angry, you're like, ooh. You put it on, you're like, I'm a bitch, do not mess with me, I'm gonna destroy your life. That's the kind of mood when you feel angry, you put that song on, that's how you feel. I think the reason why this is not my favorite album, I think A, it's not that very cohesive, which again, it's not really a problem for me, but it's just, I don't know, it feels like jumbled. And secondly, there are a lot of songs I don't like on this album. So, for example, massive unpopular opinion, I didn't like Touch when it first came out. Granted, now I like it. It's not my favorite song by them. They have better, and we're getting onto those. I've never really liked it. And Down and Dirty, I've never really liked that song. I don't know why. Again, they made a better version in another album. It's good, do not get me wrong. I know they've done better than this album. Album number 5, we're going back to the beginning with DNA. Why do they hold it like this? DNA is such a classic, okay? This is their first album. They started off really strong. Like, their first 3 singles were Wings and then DNA. They were like, Be Surprised, and then Change Your Life, which is another one of my personal favorites. I just love it, and I think the reason why I love the song Change Your Life in specific is because they actually use he pronouns in it, because like, usually songs about like insecurities and whatever usually target like a female-based audience only with like she, which don't get me wrong, we love that, but it's so nice that they appreciate that they have male fans. I just stood there, I was like, they love me. This album, great. I actually listened to this, was it yesterday? When I was starting to do this, when I was trying to do some schoolwork. And like, it's so fun. I forgot how fun this album was. Also, the power of Little Mix, how we got Always Be Together as like #1 during Christmas time to beat Mariah Carey. We have that power, okay? Honestly, it's such a fun album. And I forgot that. I forgot how energetic and how young it feels and how joyful. There are so many iconic numbers, like Stereo Soldier. I just love it. I love it. I feel like no one really speaks about it, but like, I feel like it's one of their funnest songs. I love the production, I love every little bit. I love the breakdown where Jessie goes, can you save me? Do. Red Planet, going nowhere. Oh my god, when Leanne sang it. Sick of dragging up, all you do is put me down. I wish you could luck now, I ain't around. Madhouse was like my little performative moment when I was like, how old? 12? I was like, let me get my performance on. I used to think Turn Your Face was the most emotional song. I am later proven wrong. I just love it. Songs that I don't like from this album: We Are Who We Are and How You Doing Without Missy Elliott. For some odd reasons, even as a child, I never got along with them. Album number 4 is Salute. Now, honestly, Salute is that bitch. I have to say, from 4 onwards, these are iconic. These are like Little Mix's iconic numbers, and Salute is that one. I remember listening to it one day because I was like, you know what, let's listen to Salute. And I was like mind blown. Like, I was like, wow, what the fuck? I've been sleeping under a rock, although I had this album since I was like 13. This album is just incredible. It's their first solo album without any collabs, and I freaking love that. I love the vibe of it. It feels like, for some odd reason, like a teenager, but then it also feels grown up in some odd ways. Like, it feels like that in between, and I kind of like it. The sound, the production, a lot of the production. I just feel like Jade does a lot of the runs. This is Salute as an album. Jade, how many runs do you want to do throughout this album? Yes. There's just something about this album that I feel like is just so well thought out and so clever. I don't know why, but I just do. Like, have you listened to Nothing Feels Like You and Little Me? It's that particular time of year. I think it's always autumn where I always go back to Little Me. Little Me is that bitch. Little Me is like one of my favorite songs by them, okay? I just love it so much. And also Good Enough. Good Enough hits me in the places where I don't need to be hit. I simply adore this album so much. It's a masterpiece. I have no other words. My favorites from this album are Little Me, Nothing Feels Like You, Competition, Boy, We Love an R&B Number, Good Enough, Mr. Loverboy. Just iconic. Actually, this has one skip, which is Peaceful Wars. It's not like a bad song, it's just that it's really, really sad. Yeah, but apart from that, this album, oh, we're in the top 3 territory now. The top 3 I feel like I have some sort of emotional connection to, particularly with number 3. Number 3 I think I have the most emotional connection to for a Little Mix album fully. And my number 3 is Get Weird. This album, masterpiece. Stunning, incredible. So much of like the vintage 80s production and like Black Magic and Weird People, iconic. They thought so much about this album, but also this hits in all the right places because it gives me that like 2015 pop when it was like everything had to have like a horn, and I love horns, and I don't know what particular sound that is in pop. Like, it's almost like the Focus and the Problem kind of pop, and it just makes me so happy. This album, I just have such a deep emotional connection to. For me, they have some of my favorite songs on there of all time, and I think the reason why I feel so deeply connected to it is because of Secret Love Song Part 2. Not Part 1. Jason, bye. Okay, so firstly, they always perform Part 2, and they always dedicate it to the LGBTQ+ community, and if you couldn't tell, or if you did not know, I am part of that community. And I remember listening to this for the first time, like, when this album came out, and I just remember, and particularly 2015, I wasn't really crying to a lot of music, but this song, I cried. Like, I was crying because, I don't know, I really related to it. But again, when I was like 15, I was discovering my sexuality, and I particularly like this boy, and I really wanted to date him. And particularly my school was not exactly the most accepting because I got bullied for being gay when I didn't even come out. And I just remember listening to this song, and I remember just crying and feeling so connected to it because I was like, wow, I can really relate. And this was such a moment that I cried, and I just felt so in love with it. And I remember seeing on Tumblr, because I was around on Tumblr those days, and I literally just remember looking at it, and everyone was saying it was an LGBTQ+ song, and I was like, wow, I agree, and so connected. And then seeing them on tour perform this, and then saying they're dedicated to the LGBTQ+ community, and then on tour, when I went to their concert, like Jade stopped singing, and then we sang for her. That was the best experience I think I've ever felt at a concert. Like, one of the best experiences. Literally, that song I think means so much to me, and I literally cannot thank them enough for making that song. So thank you. If any of you members are listening, another one of my favorites of all time, Lightning. Lightning, I remember listening to the song, I was like, they really did that, huh? I think they really did. I think this song is by far, Granted, it is one of the most dramatic songs, but it's one of the most thematic songs. It's like theatrical, it's dramatic, it's so impactful, and honestly, like, listening to it is an experience. Like, I'm not kidding you, listening to this song for me is a pure experience. Like, I've listened to it when lightning happened and my mind was blown. Even the words, iconic. I just stan this song so much, okay? And Hair, bitch, that's like one of my favorites. I remember when that first came out as a promotional single, and I was listening to it on Spotify, and I was like, is this my new favorite Little Mix song? I think so. Woo. With this album, I don't think there's any skips. Again, love that for them. But I would say my least favorite is literally just Secret Love Song with Jason Derulo, because it changes the meaning and I don't like that. I love it. I love it so much. Number 2. So actually in my original ranking when I was doing this, number 3 and number 2 were actually switched. So my number 3 was my number 2 and my number 2 was my number 3. I listened to my number 2 now and knew it had to be number 2. Just makes me so happy with this one. And that is Little Mix's Convey. Okay, firstly, as their last like era as a 4, iconic. They really knew what the fuck they were doing, and making Sweet Melody a main single, iconic. Also, secondly, how this is their second album with no collabs makes me so joyous. Also, this album definitely feels like them. Like, I have to say, this album feels like almost like every single album kind of pulled into one to make this, and I love it so much. I love how like fun and how liberating it feels, because again, also, if you know, they were originally in one record label which did not serve them well, and then they went bye, and now we're in a different record label which I think is treating them better. I hope so. This masterpiece is truly deserved to be promoted about. I just love it so much. I think it's fun. I think it's a good time. I think it's an uplifter. This is a no skip album again. I think this is just, it's so good. It's such a good album. And you saw my reaction listening to it for the first time, which if you didn't know, I reacted to Confetti. And this album is truly just one of a kind. Like, I literally can't describe to you how fun this album was. Also, there was like a comment on that video that was like, this is Leanne's era, and I was like, yes it is. Also, I have to say there were some of my favorites. Again, my Little Mix. Happiness is incredible. It kind of reminds me of Notice After Cry, and I fucking love that. Like, I feel like if you put them together or you mash them up, they would just so blend together and they would so go. But I love Happiness, and I remember listening to it for the first time, I was like, this is my new favorite Little Mix song, and it still is. I feel like it's just so good. And then again, when they dropped Sweet Melody, literally I was like, they knew what they were doing. Gloves Up. If you saw my reaction, you knew I was just mentioning not over Gloves Up, and I feel like I never will be. Gloves Up is that bitch. And even the songs that I initially was like, I don't like, now listening to it, I was like, you know what, they're really good. Like, was it, I remember for some odd reason, the first time I was like, my least favorite was Messy, I'm Happy For You. And now listening to it, I'm like, this is a hit. I see why so many reactions were like, oh my god, iconic. And I'm like, yes. Run Over is a sexy little number. Who doesn't love a little sexy little number? I really would love Little Mix to make a 90s inspired R&B album. I feel like they'd really do well at it, you know? I feel like they'd be iconic. Confetti is that bitch. Like, I feel like Confetti is like a birthday song. I just love this album so much. And I think if you definitely want a fun album to listen to, granted, I know you're all stands listening to this, just re-listen to this album and have a great time. Okay, so now comes the first, and this album, it's just my favorite. Like, it's one of the most cohesive Little Mix albums, one of the most grown-up Little Mix albums, I feel like. And I just feel like this album is the most feminist Little Mix album, and I love it so much, and that is LM5. This album is just a masterpiece. Like, every single track is incredible. This album makes you feel like a badass bitch. This album makes you feel like I don't need a man in my life because I am what I need. It just makes me feel so powerful. And I feel like this era was such a powerful era. And the tour. It's just such a captivating album. That's the best word to describe it. Like, it grabs you in. Because I remember this was like the time when literally I think 3 of my favorite albums came out. It was in 2018. Because it was like this, and MNEK's Language. And I know that MNEK works really, really close with Little Mix. Like, he writes and produces some of their songs, which I think is iconic. And you could definitely hear it. Like, I think he was the reason for why Strip and Wasabi were songs. Wasabi is that bitch. Wasabi feels like I need a fan and I need to be like voguing somewhere. that. I don't know where. Same with Strip. I actually love Strip. Like, I feel like, again, Strip is like one of those songs where it's starting to have more of a deeper message. I just love that. I mean, obviously, like, it has a message of like self-love and self-acceptance, and it's a very much like just fun song. But you know, when you start to feel it, like you start to feel like, hey, it's that reason. Like, I don't know, I love that. The music video was actually one of the main inspirations for my own project that I was working on at the time when I was doing like body positivity and body acceptance. Like, it was one of the main inspirations because I loved the music video. Also, they directed it. But I think this album just is so beautiful, and I love that they were playing with the production but made it so cohesive. When I said that like Down and Dirty but there's a better version, that better version is Joan of Arc, and Joan of Arc is one of the best songs. Like, again, like this album is so feminist because at the end of the day, this album, corny as it sounds, it's all about like girl power and being connected with your, in a way, like femininity, but also like with your friends, and also that element of like, I don't need a man, and that's the best. Also, again, like Women's World, one of their best songs ever, because I feel like, again, it was one of the first times they kind of got serious within their girl power message, and again, it's kind of reflected within this. This album is a lot more multi-dimensional. Like, it's not just like one layer of girl power, but it's like almost like a depth of it. Like, you get like the supportive, like girls supporting girls, then you get that like, oh fuck, I don't need a man, I want a man. I just love it. It's truly one of their best albums. My favorites from this album are Think About Us, Strip, Joan of Arc, Love a Girl Right, Wasabi, More Than Words, Motivate, Women's World, and The Cure Strip. Like, The Cure Strip is beautiful. I just love Little Mix so much. I really hope you did enjoy this. If you want any artists ranked, comment down below, and I think I might do another one. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I shall see you guys next week. Cheers, adios, goodbye people, goodbye.